And we are live. Hello, everybody.
Hello, good morning.
Hello. Good morning. Um, I'm gonna put our toy drive QR code up at the top, and we'll leave that one there for now. And then we are going to go over this article that we found about U.S. judges who have broken laws or their oaths and remained on the bench. Thousands of them. So, um, I guess you want to just get right into it, Brandy.
Yep,
We will. Okay, let me see if I can figure out how to share it. This one. Share. Okay. And I got to make sure I add it to the screen. All right. I think I'm getting a little bit better at it.
yep.
So, thousands of U.S. judges who broke laws or oaths and remained on the bench. This is by Reuters Investigates. So, in the past dozen years, state and local judges have repeatedly escaped public accountability for misdeeds that have victimized thousands. 9 of 10 kept their jobs, a Reuters investigation found, including an Alabama judge who unlawfully jailed hundreds of poor people, many of them black, over traffic fines. So, the first one here, like it says, will be about Alabama, but we have multiple states on this list. So we're going to try to get through them. Judge Les Hayes once sentenced a single mother to 496 days behind bars for failing to pay traffic tickets. The sentence was so stiff it exceeded the jail time that Alabama allows for negligent homicide. Marquita Johnson, who was locked up in April 2012, says the impact of her time in jail endures today. Johnson's three children were cast into foster care while she was incarcerated. One daughter was molested, state records show. Another was physically abused. Judge Hayes took away my life and didn't care how my children suffered, said Johnson, now 36. My girls will never be the same. Fellow inmates found her sentence hard to believe. They had a nickname for me, the woman with all the days. That's what they called me, the woman with all the days. There were people who had committed real crimes who got out before me. In 2016, the state agency that oversees judges charged Hayes with violating Alabama's Code of Judicial Conduct. According to the Judicial Inquiry Commission, Hayes broke state and federal laws by jailing Johnson and hundreds of other Montgomery residents who were too poor to pay fines. Among those jailed were a plumber struggling to make rent, a mother who skipped meals to cover the medical bills of her disabled son, a hotel housekeeper working her way through college. Hayes, a judge since 2000, admitted in court documents to violating 10 different parts of the state's judicial conduct code. One of the counts was a breach of a judge's most essential duty, which was failing to respect and comply with the law. So despite the severity of the ruling, he wasn't barred from serving as a judge. Instead, the Judicial Commission and Hayes reached a deal. The former Eagle Scout would serve an 11-month unpaid suspension. Then he could return to the bench. Until he was disciplined, Hayes said in an interview with Reuters, I never thought I was doing something wrong. This week, Hayes is set to retire after 20 years as a judge. In a statement to Reuters, Hayes says he was very remorseful for his misdeeds. Very remorseful. Community activists say his departure is long overdue, yet the decision to leave, they say, should never have been his to make, given his record of misconduct. He should have been fired years ago, said Willie Knight, a pastor of North Montgomery Baptist Church. He broke the law and wanted to get away with it. His sudden retirement is years too late. Hayes is among thousands of state and local judges across America who were allowed to keep positions of extraordinary power and prestige after violating judicial ethics, rules, or breaking laws they pledged to uphold. A Reuters investigation found that judges have made racist statements, lied to state officials, and forced defendants to languish in jail without a lawyer, and then return to the bench, sometimes with little more than a rebuke from the state agencies overseeing their conduct. Recent media reports have documented failures in judicial oversight in South Carolina, Louisiana, and Illinois. In the first comprehensive accounting of judicial misconduct nationally, Reuters identified and reviewed 1,509 cases from the last dozen years. And that was 2008 through 2019, in which judges either resigned, retired, or were publicly disciplined following accusations of misconduct. In addition, reporters identified another 3,613 cases between 2008 and 2018 in which states disciplined wayward judges but kept it hidden from the public key details of their offenses, including the identities of the judges themselves. All told, 9 out of every 10 judges were allowed to return to the bench after they were sanctioned for misconduct. They included a California judge who had sex in his courthouse chambers, once with his former law intern and separately with an attorney, a New York judge who berated domestic violence victims, a Maryland judge who, after his arrest for driving drunk, was allowed to return to the bench provided he took a breathalyzer test before each appearance. The news agency's findings reveal an excessively forgiving judicial disciplinary system, said Stephen Gillers, a law professor at New York University who writes about judicial ethics. Although punishment short of removal from the bench is appropriate for most misconduct cases, Gillers said the public would be appalled at some of the lenient treatment that judges get for substantial transgressions. Among the cases from the past year alone, in Utah, a judge texted a video of a man's scrotum to court clerks. He was reprimanded, but still remains on the bench. In Indiana, 3 judges attending a conference last spring got drunk and sparked a 3 a.m. brawl outside a White Castle fast food restaurant that ended with 2 of the judges shot. Although the state Supreme Court found that the 3 judges had discredited the entire Indiana judiciary, each returned to the bench after a suspension. In Texas, a judge burst in on jurors deliberating the case of a woman charged with sex trafficking and declared that God told him the defendant was innocent. The offending judge received a warning and returned to the bench. The defendant was convicted after a new judge took over the case. There are certain things where there should be a level of zero tolerance. The jury foreman, Mark House, told Reuters, the judge should have been fined, House said, and kicked off the bench. There's no justice because he is still doing his job. Judicial misconduct specialists say such behavior has the potential to erode trust in America's courts, and absent tough consequences could give judges licenses to behave with impunity. When you see cases like that, the public starts to wonder about the integrity and the honesty of the system. Steve Schechtman, a lawyer who directed Louisiana's oversight agency and served as deputy director of New York's. It looks like a good old boys club. Sound familiar?
Yep.
That's how local lawyers viewed the case of the longtime Alabama judge who concurrently served on the state's Judicial Oversight Commission. The judge, Coleman District Court's Kim Chaney, remained on the bench for 3 years after being accused of violating the same nepotism rules he was tasked with enforcing on the Oversight Commission. In at least 200 cases, court records show Judge Chaney chose his own son to serve as a court-appointed defense lawyer for the indigent, enabling the younger Chaney to earn at least $105,000 in fees over 2 years. See the problem with nepotism, y'all?
Yeah. And that's the reason, case us even reading this, it's not our area, but it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. I mean, it's not just Letcher County.
We're not special, and like Kevin's not the only bad man in the world. So
there is more.
Yeah,
a lot more.
It's really, really common. So it says in February, months after Reuters repeatedly asked Chaney and the State Judicial Commission about those cases, he retired from the bench as part of a deal with the state authorities to end the investigation. So he would only retire once they agreed to end the investigation. Tommy Drake, the lawyer who first filed a complaint against Chaney in 2016, said that he doubts the judge would have been forced from the bench if Reuters hadn't examined the case. The only reason they did anything about Chaney is because you guys started asking questions. Otherwise, he'd still be there. So the bedrock of American justice. State and local judges draw little scrutiny, even though their courtrooms are the bedrock of American criminal justice system, touching the lives of millions of people every year. The country's approximately 1,700 federal judges hear 400,000 cases annually. The nearly 30,000 state cases, county, and municipal court judges handle a far bigger docket. More than 100 million new cases each year, from traffic to divorce to murder. Their titles range from Justice of the Peace to State Supreme Court Justice. Their powers are vast and varied, from determining whether a defendant should be jailed to deciding who deserves custody of a child. Each U.S. state has an oversight agency that investigates misconduct complaints against judges. We need to look into that, Brandy.
That's what I was just getting ready to say. We really do.
Oversight
Where?
agency. The authority, I don't know, but hopefully we will learn something from this article. That's what I'm hoping for, that we will find some resources.
Well, that's kind of here lately my thing too. I've been trying to coach laws and certain civil, rights that we do have. I've been trying to point them out. So
yeah. And point out that it is systematic. It's not any one person that's doing this. Like, this is a systematic problem. That's why this system must be dismantled. So let's get back into the meat of it.
Yeah.
So we've got each U.S. state has an oversight agency that investigates misconduct complaints against judges. The authority of the oversight agencies is distinct from the power held by appellate courts, which can reverse a judge's legal ruling in order a new trial. Judicial commissions cannot change verdicts. Rather, they can investigate complaints about the behavior of judges and pursue discipline ranging from reprimand to removal. Few experts dispute that the great majority of judges behave responsibly, respecting the law and those who appear before them. And some contend that when judges do falter, oversight agencies are effective in identifying and addressing the behavior. With a few notable exceptions, the commissions generally get it right. Said Keith Swisher, a University of Arizona law professor who specializes in judicial ethics. Others disagree. They note that the clout of these commissions is limited and their authority differs from state to state. To remove a judge, all but a handful of states require approval of a panel that includes other judges, and most states seldom exercise the full extent of those disciplinary powers. As a result, the system tends to err on the side of protecting the rights and reputations of judges while overlooking the impact courtroom wrongdoing has on most of those most affected by it. People like Marquita Johnson. Writers scoured thousands of state investigative files, disciplinary proceedings, and court records from the past dozen years to quantify the personal toll of judicial misconduct. The examination found at least 5,206 people who were directly affected by a judge's misconduct. The victims cited in disciplinary documents range from people who were illegally jailed to those subjected to racist, sexist, and other abusive comments from judges in ways that tainted the cases. The number is a conservative estimate. The tally doesn't include two previously reported incidents that affected thousands of defendants and prompted sweeping reviews of judicial conduct. If we have a system that holds the wrongdoer accountable, but we fail to address the victims, then we are really losing sight of what a justice system should be all about. In Pennsylvania, the state examined the convictions of more than 3,500 teenagers who were sentenced by two judges. The judges were convicted of taking kickbacks as part of a scheme to fill a private juvenile detention center. Sound familiar? In 2009, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court appointed senior judge Arthur Grimm to lead a victim review, and the state later expunged criminal records for 2,251 of the juveniles. See, they did it there. They went back and looked at it and fixed it, expunged it. Yeah, so it's possible, like, we're not asking for that much. We just want people to review what's been done here and fix it. Yeah, it's not that difficult. Yes, it's going to take time. Yes, it's going to be hard to do. Yes, it's going to be a lot of extra work, but these people are worth it. They are worth it, each and every one.
And make things fair. Just, that's it. Be honest.
Be honest. Yeah.
That's it.
So if we have a system that holds a wrongdoer accountable but fail to address the victims, that's where that came from. Then we are really losing sight of what a justice system should be all about. In another review underway in Ohio, so this one's still underway at time of print, the state public defender Tim Young is scrutinizing 2,707 cases handled by a judge who retired in 2018 after being hospitalized for alcoholism. Mike Benza, a law professor at Case Western Reserve University, whose students are helping identify victims, compared the work to current investigations. There's an idea. We might need to reach out to a law school. Compared the work to current investigations into police abuse of power. You see one case and then you look to see if it's systemic. The review, which has been limited during the coronavirus pandemic, may take a year, but Young said the time-consuming task is essential because a fundamental injustice may have been levied against hundreds or thousands of people.
Yep.
Special rules for judges. Most states afford judges accused of misconduct a gentle kind of justice. Perhaps no state better illustrates the shortcomings of America's system for overseeing judges than Alabama. As in most states, Alabama's non-member Judicial Inquiry Commission is a mix of lawyers, judges, and laypeople. All are appointed, their deliberations are secret, and they operate under some of the most judge-friendly rules in the nation. Alabama's rules make even filing a complaint against the judge difficult. The complaint must be notarized, which means that in theory, anyone who makes misstatements about the judge can be prosecuted for perjury. Complaints about wrongdoings must be made in writing. Those that arrive by phone, email, or without a notary stamp are not investigated, although citizens are notified why their complaints have been summarily rejected. Anonymous written complaints are shredded.
Yep.
Good to know. Okay, these rules can leave lawyers and litigants fearing retaliation. Commission Director Jenny Garrett noted in a response to written questions. It's a ridiculous system that protects judges and makes it easy for them to intimidate anyone with a legitimate complaint, said Sue Bell Cobb, Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court from 2007 to 2011. In 2009, she unsuccessfully championed changes to the process and commissioned an American Bar Association report that offered a scathing review of Alabama's rules. In most other states, commission staff members can start investigating a judge upon receiving a phone call or an email, even an anonymous one, or after learning of questionable conduct from a news report or a court filing. In Alabama, staff will not begin an investigation without approval from the commission itself, which convenes about every 7 weeks. Randy, can you make a note for us to look into that, to the rules of reporting judges in Kentucky?
Give me 1 second.
All right. By rule, the commission.
I like paperwork. I've got a lot of it. Now, what was it, real quick?
Make a note of the rules to beginning an investigation. Is like how Alabama has got a commission that it goes in front of. There has to be a name on it. They'll shred it if it's anonymous. We need to look up and see if we have stipulations and rules like that here in Kentucky. Like, is that? Yeah. We need to figure out how to get away with none of our reports going through and nobody acknowledging us.
If you remember, I told you that. I found somewhere that if you didn't have it in writing and, certified mail and stuff, that it's like it never happened. But if they get it certified mail, they have to document they got it. And so they have to do something. So, but yeah, there's little rules to everything that'll trip you up along the way, with some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So
here's that Scott Steiner that was having sex in his chambers. And that was with his intern and an attorney who was practicing before his court. Wasn't even inmates. All right, let's see. Still just as bad, workplace harassment. Fucking. Where were we at? I got distracted. All right. By rule, the commission also must keep a judge who is under scrutiny fully informed throughout an investigation. If a subpoena is issued, the judge receives a simultaneous copy, raising fears about witness intimidation. If a witness gives investigators a statement, the judge receives a transcript. In the U.S. justice system, such deference to individuals under investigation is extremely rare. Could you imagine being accused of a crime, being a citizen, being accused of a crime, and then having to give you copies of every testimony ever given against you? I couldn't even get a fucking discovery packet.
No.
I couldn't even see my discovery to see what evidence they had against me.
And it's your stuff.
And it's my stuff. Yeah. So, why the need for special rules for judges, said Michael Levy, a Washington lawyer who has represented clients in high-profile criminal, corporate, congressional, and securities investigations. If judges think it's fair and appropriate to investigate others for crimes or misconduct without providing those subjects or targets with copies of witness statements and subpoenas, then why don't the judges think it's fair to investigate judges in the same way? Alabama judges are also given an opportunity to resolve investigations confidentially. Reuters interviews and a review of Alabama Commission records show the Commission has met with judges informally at least 19 times since 2011 to offer corrective guidance. The identities of those judges remain confidential, as does the conduct that prompted the meetings. Not every violation warrants discipline, Commission Director Garrett said. Since 2008, the commission has brought 21 public cases against judges, including Hayes, charging 2 this year. 2 of the best-known cases brought by the commission involved Roy Moore, who was twice forced out as Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court for defying federal court orders. Another Alabama justice fared better in challenging a misconduct complaint, however. Tom Parker, first elected to the state's high court in 2004, pushed back when the commission investigated him in 2015 for comments he made on the radio, criticizing the U.S. Supreme Court's decision legalizing gay marriage. Parker sued the commission in federal court, arguing the agency was infringing on his First Amendment rights. He won. Although the commission had dropped its investigation before the ruling, it was ordered to cover Parker's legal fees, which was $100,000, or about a fifth of the agency's total annual budget. So in 2018, the people of Alabama elected Parker Chief Justice. These days, Parker told Reuters that Alabama judges and the agency that oversees them enjoy a much better relationship that's less politically tinged. How can I say? It's much more respectful between the commission and the judges now. Let's play this and listen to what this guy says.
You expect a judge to be someone who is neutral, someone who a fairness abides with them. That's who you want as your judge. So to have someone who then uses that power to their own benefit, whether it's monetarily, sexually, is really, really offensive. I mean, it harkens back to thousands of years of corruption that we've seen in governments all across the world. It truly is tyrannical. I mean, it sounds like a big word to use here, but you have the authority. We entrust judges with a lot of authority. We really do. And we expect them to use that authority properly and to be fair. When you have the opposite happening, it truly is tyranny. People can be scared for their life, scared for their liberty.
So, Montgomery, Alabama has a deep history of racial conflict, as reflected in the clashing concepts emblazoned on the city's Great Seal, the cradle of the Confederacy and birthplace of the Civil Rights Movement. Jefferson Davis was inaugurated here as Confederate president after the South seceded from the Union in 1861, and his birthday is a state holiday. As was common throughout the state, the city was the site of lynchings of black men, crimes now commemorated at a national memorial based here. Police arrested civil rights icon Rosa Parks here in 1955 for refusing to give up her seat on a city bus to a white passenger. Today, about 60% of Montgomery's 198,000 residents are black. U.S. Census records show. Even so, black motorists account for about 90% of those charged with unpaid traffic tickets. A Reuters examination of court records found much of Judge Hayes' work in municipal court involved traffic cases and the collection of fines. Hayes, who is white, told Reuters that the majority of people who come before the court are black. City officials have said that neither race nor economics have played a role in police efforts to enforce outstanding warrants, no matter how minor the offense. So in April 2012, Marquita was among them. Appearing before Hayes on a Wednesday morning, the 28-year-old single mother pleaded for a break. Johnson had struggled for 8 years to pay dozens of tickets that began with a citation for failing to show proof of insurance. She had insurance, she said, but when she was pulled over, she couldn't find the card to prove it. Even a single ticket was a knockout blow on her minimum wage waitress salary. In addition to the fines, the court assessed a $155 fee to every ticket. Court records show that police often issued her multiple tickets for the other infractions during every stop, a practice some residents call stacking. Under state law, failing to pay even one ticket can result in the suspension of a driver's license. So Johnson's decision to keep driving, nonetheless, taking her children to school and doctor visits, getting groceries, going to work, led to more tickets and deeper debt. I told Judge Hayes that I'd lost my job and I needed more time to pay, she recounted. By Hayes' calculation, Johnson owed more than $12,000 in fines. He sentenced Johnson to 496 days in jail. Hayes arrived at that sentence by counting each day in jail as $25 toward the outstanding debt. A different judge later determined that Johnson actually owed half the amount calculated by Hayes, and that Hayes had incorrectly penalized her for over fines that she had already paid. To shave time off of her sentence, Johnson washed police cars and performed other menial labor jobs while jailed. Hayes told Routers that he generally found pleas of poverty hard to believe. With my years of experience, I can tell when someone's being truthful with me. He called it gut instinct. He's disgusting. Though he added in a statement this week that he also consulted each defendant's criminal and traffic history as well as their history of warrants and failures to appear in court. Of course, the law demands more of a judge than a gut call. In 1983 landmark decision Bearden versus Georgia, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that state judges are obligated to hold a hearing to determine whether a defendant was willfully chosen not to pay a fine. Whether a defendant has willfully chosen not to pay a fine. So, according to the state's Judicial Oversight Commission, Judge Hayes did not make any inquiry into Ms. Johnson's ability to pay, whether her non-payment was willful. I prayed to return to my daughters. I was sure that someone would realize that Hayes had made a mistake. She said her worst day in jail was her youngest daughter's 3rd birthday. From a jail telephone, she tried to sing happy birthday, but slumped to the floor in grief. She was choking up and crying, said Johnson's mother, Blanche, who was on the call. She was devastated to be away from her children for so long. When Johnson was freed after 10 months in jail, she learned that strangers had abused her 2 older children. One is now a teenager. The other is in middle school. My kids will pay a lifetime for what the court system did to me. My daughters get frantic when I leave the house. I know they've had nightmares that I'm going to disappear again. 6 months after Johnson's release, Hayes jailed another single black mother. Angela McCullough, then 40, had been pulled over for driving home from Faulkner University, a local community college where she carried a 3.87 GPA. As a mother of 4 children, including a disabled adult son, she had returned to college to pursue her dream of becoming a mental health counselor. Police ticketed her for failing to turn on her headlights. After a background check, the officer arrested her on a warrant for outstanding traffic tickets. She was later brought before Hayes. I can't go to jail, she recalled pleading with the judge. I'm a mother. I have a disabled son who needs me. Hayes sentenced McCullough to 100 days in jail to pay off a court debt of $1,350. Her adult son, diagnosed with schizophrenia, was held in an institution until her release.
Oh my gosh.
McCullough said that she cleaned jail cells in return for time off her sentence, and one day she recalled she had to clean a blood-soaked cell where a female had slit her wrist. She was freed after 20 days using the money she saved for tuition to pay off her tickets. Jail was the darkest chapter of her life, a place where the devil was trying to take my mind. Today, she has abandoned her pursuit of a degree. I don't think I'll ever be able to afford to go back. A clear sign that something was amiss in Montgomery courts came in November in 2013 when a federal lawsuit was filed alleging that city judges were unlawfully jailing the poor. A similar suit was filed in 2014, and 2 more civil rights cases were filed in 2015. Johnson and McCullough were plaintiffs. The lawsuits detailed practices similar to those that helped fuel protests in Ferguson, Missouri, after a white police officer killed a black teenager in 2014. In a scathing report on the origins of unrest, the U.S. Department of Justice exposed how Ferguson had systematically used traffic enforcement to raise revenue through excessive fines, a practice that fell disproportionately hard on black residents. That's happening right now in Tennessee with DUIs. A lot of cops are coming forward saying that the system is pushing people to ruin people's lives on purpose.
Yeah.
Montgomery is just like Ferguson, said Karen Jones, a community activist and founder of a local educational nonprofit. Jones has led recent protests in Montgomery in the wake of the killing of George Floyd, the black man whose death under the knee of a cop in Minneapolis set off the worldwide calls for racial justice. In Montgomery, everybody knew that the police targeted black residents, and as I sat in Hayes Court and watched him squeeze poor people for more money, then toss them in jail where they had to work off debts with free labor to the city. It was years before the flurry of civil rights lawsuits against Hayes and his fellow judges had much impact on the commission. The oversight agency opened its Hayes case in summer of 2015, nearly 2 years after the plaintiff's lawyers in the civil rights cases filed a complaint with the body.
They get in no hurry.
Hayes spent another year and a half on the bench before accepting the suspension. So under its own rules, the commission could have filed a complaint and told its staff to investigate Hayes at any time. Commission Director Garrett said she is prohibited by law from explaining why the commission didn't investigate sooner. What? The investigation went slowly, Garrett said, because it involved reviewing thousands of pages of court records. The commission also was busy with other cases from 2015 to 2017. Garrett said, issuing charges against 5 judges, including Moore. Slap in the face. A few months after Judge Hayes' suspended ended, his term as municipal judge was set to expire. So the Montgomery City Council took up the question of the judge's future on the agenda of its meeting, whether to reappoint him to another 4-year term. So this says, Judge Hayes failed to comply with the Constitution of the United States, the dictates of the United States Supreme Court, federal and state case law, the Alabama Constitution, Alabama statutes, and the Alabama Rules of Criminal Procedure. He wasn't in the audience that night, but powerful supporters were. The city's chief judge, Milton Westry, told the council that Hayes and his colleagues have changed how they handled cases involving indigent defendants since we learned a better way of doing things in the wake of the suits. Westry says Hayes and his peers complied with the reforms that required judges to make audio recordings of court hearings and notify lawyers when clients are jailed for failing to pay fines. As part of a settlement in the civil case, the judges agreed to implement changes for at least 2 years. Those reforms have since been abandoned. Both measures were deemed too expensive. It was too expensive for them to record audio of each of the fucking court proceedings. Too expensive. Wow. Okay, so, and it's too expensive. They said the other thing they were required were to inform them of when somebody was jailed. Notify the lawyer when their clients are jailed for paying fines. That was too expensive for them to do.
Yeah.
To follow through with. It costs them too much money to notify the person's lawyer. What? Are you fucking kidding me? What the fuck? Oh my God. I swear.
It's a mess.
It's astounding. The ignorance is astounding. All right. So, as part of a settlement in the civil case, the judges agreed to implement the changes. Oh, okay. We just read that. Hold on. But still yet, it says residents who addressed the council were incredulous that the city would consider reappointing him. Jones, the community activist, reminded council members that Hayes had pled guilty to violating the very laws he was sworn to uphold. The city council voted to rehire Hayes for a 5th consecutive term. Marquita Johnson said that she can't understand why a judge whose unlawful rulings changed the lives of hundreds has himself emerged virtually unscathed. Hiring Hayes back into the bench was a slap in the face to everyone. It was a message that we don't matter. On Thursday, Hayes will retire from the bench. In an earlier interview with Reuters, he declined to discuss the Johnson case. Asked whether he regrets any of the sentences he has handed out, he paused. I think maybe I could have been more sympathetic at times. Sometimes you miss a few. So here are a few that were cited and then able to remain on the bench for years. Judge Cheney, who enforced and broke rules. Once again, he was representing the poor people, broke ethics laws in his own courtroom. We don't have to go through all the numbers and stuff of it. Hang on. Judge Kelly for callous indifference. Cases in which a child remains in limbo until she rules. Okay, here we go. Let's read this one. How a judge left children in limbo by repeatedly failing to perform her most basic duty, which was ruling on cases. You listening, Jimmy? Kraft? Montgomery Circuit Court Judge Anita Kelly hears time-sensitive family matters such as child custody, adoption, and divorce cases in which a child remains in limbo until she rules. Starting in 2014, Court and Judicial Commission records show word of years-long delays in her cases began to emerge from foster parents, lawyers, social workers, and appeals court judges. Commission officials are barred by law from discussing the case, but Reuters pieced together the scope of the investigation through juvenile court records, public documents, and interviews with people involved. In May 2014, foster parents Sherry and Travis Norwood filed a complaint about Kelly with the Judicial Commission. They alleged the judge's incompetence led to a traumatic, years-long delay in which a foster care child who began living with the Norwoods as an infant was taken away from them at the age of 3.5 and returned to live with her teenage biological mother. If Judge Carey thought they should have been together, fine. But why didn't this happen sooner? Because children can't wait. You can't freeze a child. Hold her in suspended animation until her mother is ready. Social workers who heard about the Norwood complaint forwarded their own concerns about Kelly's conduct in several other cases. Nonetheless, the commission dismissed the Norwood complaint in early 2015, finding no reasonable basis to charge the judge. Over the next year, more red flags emerged. State appeals court judges raised concerns about Kelly's continued neglect of her duty, citing at least 5 cases that had untenable delays. In November 2015, a Supreme Court justice criticized the nearly 3 years it took to determine one child's fate. How long have we been going through this with the kids? It's been Tony's whole life.
Well, Tony's is coming up on 8 years, and this all started with her 19 months ago. So,
okay,
and it's delay after delay after delay
after delay after delay. So, like, it does damage, y'all. You are hurting people. You are hurting these innocent children. Not doing your jobs properly. So I refuse to be another adult who has totally failed this child, Justice Tommy Bryan wrote. Another 20 months passed before the Judicial Commission took action. In August 2017, it charged Kelly with delays that manifest a callous indifference or lack of comprehension to children's well-being. One child's case, it noted, had dragged on for 5 years. Kelly took her case to trial before the Court of the Judiciary, the special tribunal that weighs charges against judges. Her attorney argued that the judge worked hard and had shown no ill intent. In 2018, the tribunal found that Kelly failed to maintain professional competence. Kelly was suspended for 90 days, but she still kept her job. The court said it likely would have removed Kelly from the bench if not for 2 factors. Voters reelected her in 2016, and she exhibited good character in the lack of evidence of scandal or corruption on her part. Her lawyer, Henry Louis Gillis, applauded her reinstatement and said the delays never affected the quality of her decisions. Judge Kelly cannot change yesterday. Rather, she chooses to learn from her past experiences, and she continues to handle the many, many, many cases that come before her today. I hope that these other kids that she's handling, these many, many, many cases, are getting appropriately looked at in a timely manner.
Yeah.
So, Judge Wiggins, give blood or go to jail. A judge who is a repeat offender 4 times over remains on the bench. Circuit Judge Marvin Wiggins has been hit with misconduct charges by Alabama's Judicial Conduct Commission for 4 times over the past decade. He was reprimanded in 2009, suspended for 90 days for failing to recuse himself from a voter fraud investigation involving his relatives. The public must be able to trust that our judges will dispense justice fairly and impartially. And Judge Wiggins, by his actions, disregarded that trust. They all disregard our trust. In 2016, in a case that made global headlines, Wiggins was censured for offering defendants the option of giving blood instead of going to jail for paying fines. A local blood drive happened to be taking place at the courthouse that day. If you do not have any money and you do not want to go to jail as an option to pay it, you can give blood today. Wiggins told dozens of defendants, according to a recording, consider that as a discount rather than putting you in jail if you do not have any money.
Oh my gosh.
41 defendants gave blood that day, and the commission called Wiggins' conduct reprehensible and inexcusable. Wiggins acknowledged that his comments were inappropriate, but noted he did not send anyone to jail that day for failure to pay fines. Because they all gave blood? Is that why you put them in jail? Because 41 of them cooperated and did what you told them to do? Because your coercion worked? So, an ordained pastor has been repeatedly reelected to the bench for more than 20 years. He's not only a good judge, but a good person, they said. So, last year, Wiggins was reprimanded for directly calling the father in a custody dispute, a conversation that violated a rule prohibiting a judge from discussing a case without both sides present. A recording of the call became a key piece of evidence against Wiggins. In preparation for trial in that case, the commission said it found a pattern and practice of similar one-sided calls. The commission also said it found evidence that Wiggins was meeting with divorce litigants in his chambers without lawyers present. In November, this prompted a new commission case against Wiggins, his 4th in 10 years. At a very minimum, the commission alleged his track record indicates a pattern of carelessness or indifferent disregard or lack of disrespect for the high standards imposed on the judiciary. But at a pretrial hearing in January and in subsequent order, Wiggins scored a victory before the Alabama tribunal that issues Final judgment on such cases, the court of the judiciary, the presiding judge raising questions about whether proper procedures had been followed in the case against Wiggins. 3 weeks later, the commission dropped the case, and Wiggins returned to the bench. Judges who were publicly disciplined and what they did. Look here, you can even search your judges by state right here.
Wow.
Do we have an option for Kentucky? Yeah. Oh, it just pulled them up for the years. Okay. Now, click any judge to read the full report. So in 2008, we had 3 of them: John Chappelle, Frank Wakefield, and Fred White, Margaret Huddleston, Roger Elliott, Tamara Gormley, Daniel Ballou, Russell Allred, Martin McDonald, Sandra McLaughlin. Are these all Kentucky judges that got in trouble on these years? That's what that said, wasn't it?
What it said, I thought, yeah. I wonder if they're still on the bench. Oh,
that's what it says.
Send me the list.
It says, in the first comprehensive accounting of judicial misconduct nationally, Routers identified and reviewed 1,500 cases from the last dozen years, in which state or local judges resigned, retired, or were publicly disciplined following accusations of misconduct. Explore judges in your state by using the drop-down menu on the left to find a specific judge. Type in that judge's last name.
Well, there was that judge in Purdy County. The judge in Purdy County that, what's it? She had to spend the weekends in jail or something.
Yeah.
Or they pulled her off the bench or something, but she served time in jail. I had mentioned it one time before, and I still cannot remember her name ever. But you read that list of names, and it didn't sound like it was on that. The name didn't sound familiar. So I wonder if they even are actually reporting it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
Is it a true estimate of what's being done, or is it
that's an estimate based on what has been reported? That's not even like the ones that get covered up and stuff. Like they were explaining how the rules worked. If it comes in an anonymous report, then they just throw it in the garbage. They shred it. They don't even look at it.
Don't pay attention to it. Yeah.
Let's hear her.
He violated every principle, and now we want to put him before us again. That is such an effrontery to us as the citizens out here. And it's almost like we're willing to marginalize a group of poor people. But yet we can keep restoring and giving privileges to those who know better. And I would have the hazard to say, for all the many people who have gone to jail and be punished, how many of their lives have been restored to that point of disruption that he caused? Have we gone and asked them, what can we do to restore their lives also? Have you made an amends to them? At that point that they were jailed, did we try to figure out what happened? Did their lives becoming more encumbered because of what Les Hayes did? So I think here we're looking at what's fair. And regardless of race, ethnicity.
There we go. She said that well, I thought.
Yep.
Look here. Deliberately postpone the appointment of public defenders in probation violation cases. She was suspended for 6 months.
Yeah. Sarah, she's on live today. She decided she's going to be on the show.
Sarah's coming?
No, Toothless has been sitting here the whole time.
Kind of a power because they have such immediate impact on the central issues of people's lives, be it their individual lives or the interests they have in their businesses or their organizations, their governmental entities. The judges decide all the issues of dispute. And it's terribly important that the judges be held in high regard and esteem, and that people have respect for their decisions. So judges' power reflects on the way people look at them, and they look at judges still in a different way than they look at other elected officials. Judges are in robes. They're called Your Honor. They sit above people. They hold these important decisions in their hands, and they need to be trusted to have to act with independence, with integrity, with confidence, so that their decisions aren't only the correct decisions, but appear to be correct decisions.
And we listened to that guy. All right, let's stop sharing the screen. I thought that was a pretty good article, and it illustrates like how it goes, how it's happening all over the world and from so many different angles. It doesn't have nothing to do with the sex. I mean, it does for some of us, but not everybody. There's so many people affected by this. There's so many lives disrupted and so many children who are being abused because they were removed from their parents. Because they were taken from the families that loved them and cared for them to protect them. So we just wanted to highlight a few of those things. I'll go over some of these comments. What time do we got, Brandy? What time you got to leave to take Jake's interview?
Well, you're fine. I've got plenty of time.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Hello, Tricia. Melody. Okay. Trump said, thank you, Trump said Hillbilly Crime mentioned y'all, and I want to show you support and thank you for standing up for the corruption. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much.
I'm not certain I completely have the facts right regarding Sarah's babies, but I'm so upset for y'all that they missed Christmas. So, in other news, Mickey's having a hearing today. So maybe we can touch base again later after Jake does his interview and stuff. When you get home, maybe it'll be time for that hearing. Maybe it'll be over and we
know something.
Report on that and find out what all's going on. Yeah, with that.
I think too, we was trying to show that, Letcher County's not the only place that it seems like it's falling apart right now. Yeah. It's like the whole system is. Yeah, it's everywhere.
It's the entire system. It's the whole system is corrupt. And that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. From so many angles. So now's the time to correct it. That's a few examples of the way that things go wrong and how people get forgotten and slip through the cracks and how their lives are made so much more difficult by these systems.
Well, we talked about it before.
That illustrated it from different angles of,
being poor.
Kids, this is how it affects. This is why, because I'm poor. And I told them, and they didn't even ask, was it because I couldn't pay or willfully wouldn't pay? It wasn't because she wouldn't pay her fines. It's because she didn't have the money.
Well, poor. I feel like honestly, they criminalize the poor.
They criminalize
the poor,
right?
And then you can't vote. You can't. There's so many rights taken because they have criminalized the poor.
They also act like if you don't have money, that you can't provide for your children, which is not the case. That is not true. My mom didn't have money. We were well provided for. She worked her ass off, scripted and scraped and traded and bartered and sold and made handmade items. She did what she had to do to make the ends meet. And you don't have to have a 6-figure income to be able to be a good parent.
Right.
And to take care of your family. Like they need to get their noses out of them.
Yeah.
Because they're doing nothing but bringing more harm.
But we was talking about with our case where it's been every time we go in it's 30 to 60 more days. 30 to 60 more days. And this is time that we're not going to get.
Let's take a break.
What was it, Ty? You cut out. Oh.
What were you going to say, John?
Oh,
I said, you got anything else before we take our break?
No, I'm good.
Okay. It's cutting in and out. Every time I plug in the power or unplug my power cord on my computer, it goes laggy for a minute. So
yeah, it'll
unplug it because I got to get it on my computer outside. Yeah.
Oh, well.
Okay, guys.
Yeah, we
thank you
can get
for
back
joining
on
us for that. Yeah,
And we'll get
be
back
back
on
on here
later.
in a little bit after interviews and stuff. So, wish him luck, everybody. Send Jakey some good energy that he gets this job.
Yeah.
All right. I love you.
Love you. Love everybody.
I don't know where the button's at.
I don't either. I'm doing the same thing.
I got it.